Welcome to another episode of Beauty and the Priest. I'm Fiona.
And I'm Jim, and today we're going to talk about apologising. Apologising is a particularly interesting space. There are some people I've found who have a great deal of trouble in apologising. Others I know who can apologise really easily and just play on, so to speak. And sometimes that's not really enough. If something's happened and you've explained to somebody that you really hurt me and this is what you've done, and they go, "Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, do you want a cup of tea or whatever?" And you think, it's kind of not enough.
I don't think you are sorry.
That's right.
Yeah.
So just wondering then, Fiona, what's your take on apology is?
Yeah, I think that's a really good topic, and it's interesting and not one you really think about a lot. But yeah, you've said it. Some people do find it very easy to apologise and some people don't. And I think our ability to be able to apologise, I guess, sits with our comfort of making mistakes and our comfort of knowing that we are humans that don't get things right all the time. So that could be, it could be something that you've grown up with. So I find with people that I work with, for example, that don't allow themselves to make mistakes and are very hard on themselves, will tend to be very hard on other people, and also not readily admit that they've made a mistake. And it could come back from their family of origin and culture or anything like that, that they could have gotten into a lot of trouble for making mistakes and therefore try to run from it and hide from it. So I think, first of all, my go-to for every single topic is seek first to understand why. So if you have trouble apologizing for things, it's like, why do I have trouble with that? Like, what voice am I hearing? What feelings am I having? Is it triggering anything from my childhood, or is it my ego? Is it an inability to be able to admit that I'm wrong? So I think there's a lot of reasons that go into whether somebody can find it easy. I'm the sort of person, like, I am the people pleaser, so I am the first to apologize. I probably wasn't always like this, but I think now that I have a lot more self-awareness and emotional intelligence around and also self-acceptance of my imperfections, is that I'll go, oh yeah, like I might get upset with my husband and then go, you know what, that wasn't okay that I said that way. So I'm sorry about that. That was not an okay way to say it. Let me just reframe that again and start over. So yeah, that's my initial takes. What do you think?
Well, I think that what you were saying there before about the ego is one that's often come up for me, where I've sort of thought, oh, I'm really reacting to this, or this thing's really hurt me, or it's really offended me in whatever case. And sometimes it's got to do with somebody stepping into your space that you feel particularly skilled in or knowledgeable about, and they'll say something and you think, well, no, that's actually not correct. And they go, oh, well, too bad, this is what we're doing. And you think, well, now I feel really hurt because you know that this is my area of speciality, or I've got a special connection to this. Yeah. And so that ego can really cut in there. Yeah. I think the other thing is that's interesting is where we sometimes think that the whatever's being discussed here, can't we just agree to disagree and move on? And yes, that can sometimes help the relationship, but sooner or later it's going to come to a conclusion, like the immovable object and the unstoppable force type of thing. You know, you can keep on defer, but sooner or later you're going to need to have that conversation. If it is something that is significantly important, like whether you like soup or not, or whatever else like that, especially if it's a relationship. How are we going to deal with it?
And those things can fester and then trigger in completely inappropriate, at the wrong time for the wrong reason. So I guess the difference between apologizing and backing down, like standing your ground, see, there's a lot going on at the moment too. Is like, there's, as we know, there's the to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, right? So it's like, who's right and who's wrong, and opinions and all that sort of stuff. I guess they're two different things. Like, it's who's right and wrong, but when to apologize for, you know, having your opinion, but maybe delivering it in an offensive or aggressive way. Yeah. So in relationships, I guess, apologizing, when do you do it? When is it an empty apology just so you can get your own way or to move it along? And when is it genuine? And what do you need for self-reflection, for it to be genuine. And I guess, again, it's tied to ego. It's about going, no, actually, that wasn't okay. Just on that, when I was doing a lot of personal development a few years ago, I realized that I reacted to people in very different ways back then as I did. And it was because of ego. And I did a lot of work around, all right, why did I get angry about that person saying that? It's like, oh, well, that's because I was reacting with my opinion and like, how dare you? And I'll show you. And I'm like, well, that's not a helpful reaction. So I had to really work on those reactions and where they came from to be able to just go, no, actually, it's okay that that you're right and I'm wrong, or, you know, I'm sorry I reacted that way. Yeah.
I think it can be really interesting when you're in a position of authority too, when, for argument's sake, you're the boss and you really wear that, and you sort of feel, I can't be seen as, I need to be infallible. I need to be seen as knowing everything, having all the answers, being across everything. When you do something wrong, and you feel that apologizing, like I was saying before, it's getting caught up in the ego. Yeah, it's a weakness. I don't want to show myself as being fallible or wrong. And sometimes that can be a real problem.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where there's a lot of talk around, and Brene Brown is really big on this vulnerability. And one of the things, even with the leadership training, is teaching that leaders that vulnerability is actually powerful, and vulnerability connects you better and more to your people. It kind of brings us together as humans. And again, I think it goes back to, how did the people around you react to your mistakes or to whatever when you were growing up? And is this something you now hide from, and you won't admit your weakness or won't admit your mistakes because the little voice inside your head, which is actually young you, goes, oh, we're going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
Because that can be a big trigger for that.
Absolutely. And I think it's really part of the growing process. We do need to be able to do that. Sooner or later, you're going to make a mistake. Sooner or later, you're going to need to apologize to somebody. And because that's what grown-ups do.
Yeah.
I don't mean to morph this into a different type of conversation, but I think that's one of the things that's really rising to the fore in our culture at the moment, this whole cancel culture, as in just excluding people or shutting them down if they differ from you in some way, or even the whole idea of demonizing somebody so much so that because I don't like them, because I don't believe what they believe, anything I do is justified because they're just not good. None of those things are helpful. And then sooner or later, we're going to need to get in a position of apologizing to somebody like that, and even accepting apologies for somebody or from somebody. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I think this acceptance, first of all, self-acceptance is the biggest thing, because the way we treat ourselves is the way we treat other people. So we have to start with self-acceptance and being okay to make mistakes and seeing mistakes as a stepping stone to success. Mistakes are how I learn. And as a human being, I am going to mess up. As a human being, I am going to get angry at people. And when I, shouldn't, but like, I have human emotions. So of course I'm going to get angry. And even if you are really emotionally intelligent, you have really good self-regulation. If you're tired, if you're irritable, if you've had a really bad day, you are going to respond a lot more differently than you would. And so eventually you're going to have to apologize to somebody for something, because you're human. And I guess then it comes down to, how do we make it a genuine,
How do we do it?
How do we do it? How do we make it genuine? And it's a mindset. Everything's mindset. So it's about what relationship do you currently have with apologizing? Is it a weakness in your head? Is it whatever it is? Change the relationship you have with making mistakes and apologizing and moving on, and start to see it differently and go, all right, so currently my relationship with making mistakes is like really bad and triggers fear. What about if I change my relationship with it? No, making mistakes is a way I'm going to learn new things. Having an interaction with someone and admitting that I've made a mistake, or admitting that I've just behaved badly, is a way for me to get closer to that person and build the relationship with them, and allow them to even go, oh, so maybe then it's okay for me to also fail and to show up as I am as well. So it starts to open up this whole new world of vulnerability and showing up as our own true selves, and being able to accept and embrace each other's differences, I guess.
Yeah.
And for what you were saying about in this, you know, we're in this cancel culture and how we're all, oh, that person's wrong because they believe in this. How about we just realize that every single person on the face of the earth is different, because that's how God created them, first of all. We've got different values, we've got different personality types, which means our brains work differently, so they process different ways. We've got different cultures, we've got different family of origins, we've got different experiences that have led us to have the beliefs and the behaviors and the whatever that goes into our unique little set of attributes. And so we probably wouldn't need to apologize as much as if we just let each other be who we all need to be on our own. It's like, okay, yeah, cool, I don't agree with you, but yeah, if that's what you think, then fine. But so what sort of circumstances do we normally need to apologize in? So,
well, that's one way of looking at it. I think what's perhaps important, maybe aside from that, is how to do it effectively.
Yeah.
Because there's any number of circumstances that we can apologize for. Oh, I'm sorry, I backed out and I almost ran over you with my car. I'm sorry, I forgot your birthday. I forgot, you know, there's so many different things we could possibly be sorry for. But the actual language of apology, I think, is really a key item. And then, as you know, I'm a massive fan of Dr. Gary Chapman. His book, The 5 Love Languages, was absolutely life-changing for me, and I think for many other people. But he's actually developed another book called The 5 Languages of Apology. I think it's worthwhile to consider those. So the first one is expressing regret, which is the common one, where people will usually just say, oh, I'm sorry. Or words to that effect, I apologize. So it's actually saying it or expressing it in some way. Now, the second one is accepting responsibility for what you've done or your part in it, as in, I was wrong. The third is making restitution, and that is, what can I do to make it right? The fourth one is genuinely repenting. So I'll try not to do that again. And then, of course, actively try not to do that again. And the fifth one is requesting forgiveness. And will you please forgive me? So if you encompass those 5, the actual phrase, and this isn't the get out of jail free phrase, this is, you know, don't just take this away and write this down and say, this is what I need to do, and this will get me out of every
I'm just going to keep stuffing up, and then I'm going to go through my list of apology requisites.
Correct. But the phrase should be something to this extent, which is, I am sorry, I was wrong. What can I do to make it right? I'll try not to do it again. Will you please forgive me? That's effectively all 5 of those love languages or languages of apology encompassed in one.
So how do we do that without sounding like we're reading a cue card? I'm sorry, please forgive me. I won't do it again. What can I do? See, because it could be very platitudey.
Correct.
Is that the right
absolutely.
word? So to be genuine, and I think this is a really good thing for relationship building too, is if you're in a relationship, maybe sitting down and saying, hey, let's get better at the way we acknowledge our mistakes and the way we recover from our mistakes. Here's the thing about the 5 love languages of apologies. Let's lay this out on the table first so that we can practice it together. And this is the thing about relationship building, is like, don't just start changing something and develop on your own. It's like, bring your partner or your team or your your co-workers or whatever in on it, and go, here's what we're going to practice together moving forward. Is everybody on board? So when you start seeing me do this, don't freak out. I just want to get better at blah. So just for anybody watching, if you haven't heard of the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman, they are gifts, acts of service, words of encouragement or words of affirmation, quality time, and physical touch. So he's done some research around how people express and receive love. So you can see how, like, if those things get challenged as well, that would impact you greatly, but how you can use those things. So if you know your partner's love language is gifts and you want to apologize, maybe you could bring them some flowers and apologize with a gift. Or if it's, I'm just trying to tie in the two, if that's words of encouragement, then it's, if their love language is words of encouragement, is like, you did a really good job of that, and I poo-pooed all over it, and I'm really sorry that because you did really great there, or things like that. You could sort of tie it in, but I think the important thing is to always be genuine and authentic. And again, don't do it again.
Yes, and I think one of the things to think about is, of course, in those 5 areas, is to think, have I actually done something wrong? So a bit of self-introspection is worthwhile. So if somebody says, I just can't talk to you right now because you've really whatever, don't grind metal. Don't go for it and go, we're going to get this hashed out here and now. Try and put some distance between you and the event a little. And look at those 5 areas and really investigate what went wrong. Am I actually sorry? Well, it might take you a little while to work that out or not. Am I going to accept responsibility? Well, what part in all of this did I play? I only did this. Well, yes, but you did do it.
Still did do something.
Making restitution. What can I do? Well, what sorts of things, if this was done to me, what would I expect to be given back over? Genuine repentance. How can I make sure I don't do that again? And even should I make sure I don't do it again? Or can we put something in place that if I ever do it again, that we can sort of lessen it?
Can you point it out to me? So I acknowledge that I did this. If I do it again and it hurts you and I haven't recognized it, can you can you have a word?
Give me a signal.
Hippopotamus.
That's right. That's it. A safe word. Give me a safe word.
Okay. So you touched on what do you actually need to apologize? Like, are you apologizing just to get it over and done with when you haven't actually done something wrong and you're trying to appease the other person? And know that this person is not going to come to the party. So like, you'll back down and take responsibility for something that wasn't even your fault.
Yeah, and I think in a long-term relationship, that really is a big question to ask.
And
I do like Dr. Phil. Yeah, I do like Dr. Phil, but Phil McGraw, he had a way of saying these things, and that is, do you want to be right, or do you want to have a relationship? I think words to that effect. And I get that, but it can be overused, and it can be, look, yes, I do want to have the relationship, but I'm consistently backing down and backing down. I'm getting used and used. At what point do I go, stop,
enough?
Please? Please stop.
It's self-sacrificing. And that can be draining. So it's about, when do I ask for an apology from the other person as well? And how do I have that? And look, every relationship, the biggest problem is communication.
Of course,
So if we can get communication right and having those open, honest, and vulnerable conversations with each other, it's about, hang on a minute, the way you just spoke to me then is not okay. I'm just going to stop you right there. I acknowledge that you might be upset and you might have had a bad day, but taking it out on me is not okay. So you have some space and we'll come back together and talk about it later. Can you have those conversations as well? When is it okay to ask to stop someone and say, no, you're wrong?
That is a hard one, and obviously safety paramount. So we need to take that in consideration, of course, as well. There are some people who don't deal with their anger very well, and there does need to be some distance there. But I think it's really, really important to make sure we do that, of course.
So apologies. When to ask for them, when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to ask for them, know when to give them, know when to walk away, know when to run.
That's right, exactly right.
So I like the 5 love languages, the Gary Chapman 5 apology languages. What's the book called?
Strangely enough, the 5 languages of apology. Who would have thought?
Wow, that's a really great name. Is learning how to self-assess. So like, just trying to work out what we're getting out of this is like to take a step back from it and go, where's my ego in all of this? Did I actually do something wrong? How can I make good on it? How can I go back and just allowing ourselves to be a bit more vulnerable and go, hey, I stuffed that up, sodder. I think is a really powerful message to send to other people as well as things. And also, if you've got kids,
it's a great
example to be to your children, to go, you know what, I really messed that up. I'm really sorry. It's something that I wasn't good at, I guess, in my younger years, I've always been good in that sense as a parent. So like, for example, when my kids were little, I decided to say to them, because I wanted to teach them how to question things and not just take, no for an answer, basically.
Yeah.
And I said, if I say no, if you ask me a question, if you ask me for something or ask me to go somewhere, ask me anything, and I say no, dig a little deeper and ask me what my reason for saying no is, because I want to be accountable to why I'm saying no. Am I just being lazy? Can I just not be bothered? All those other things.
Yeah.
To be accountable. So I would have a good reason. And sometimes it made me honest as well, because sometimes the answer would be, I'm just too tired.
Yes.
I can't be bothered. And
Sure.
that's me, it's not you. So I have no good reason. So it kind of kept me accountable. So I guess taking that into other relationships is like being able to have those conversations. Well, why are you wrong? Or why am I wrong? Or why are you angry? Or why are you apologizing? Or why am I apologizing? Having that relationship with yourself as well as the other people in your field. And so you've got the personal relationship, so with your partner, with your family, with your kids. You might be a leader, or even just any work relationship. How do you do? Ask yourself this question now. How do I do in that situation? Do I allow myself to be vulnerable? Do I allow myself to admit my mistakes and that I've done something wrong? And what's my usual go-to style for that? Because I've come across people that will absolutely flat out not admit that they have made a mistake or were wrong. Yeah. But I go back to that, seek first to understand why. What's going on for this person? So how can we extend grace to someone who maybe can't find an apology for us when we need an apology for them? Yeah. So there's the layers that you can peel off the apology. Like, how do we forgive someone who hasn't asked for forgiveness? How do we give grace to somebody who can't apologize for being wrong or mean or so it sort of goes down another layer, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It is really hard to make sure that we are doing it in the best possible way. But as you say, I think it's really important to be able to give a good witness and be a good example for the kids, because they are always going to have to be in a position in the future, sooner or later, where they're going to need to accept an apology and give an apology. And
to know that it's okay to make mistakes, to know like we don't set out to hurt people, but we will make mistakes during our life, whether they be mistakes like I messed up a work project or I messed up a conversation with somebody because I got angry or something like that. To teach kids that it's okay to make mistakes, and in fact it's the way we learn and grow, and to own up for it is actually a strength, not a weakness. And in a way to sort of grow that resilience and own, stand in your own power and own the person that you are, warts and all.
Yes.
Not use it to let yourself off the hook.
No.
Or get out of jail free card, as you said, but to use it as a like, oh yeah, wow, that was not okay. I'm going to come forward and say, I messed that up. And as a parent, to even admit your mistakes to your kids, because I find that kids then will feel more free to explore and grow if they know that they can make mistakes.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I've come across parents that are like, just pretend to be perfect. And I don't think that's a good example to set for kids at all, because how can they ever measure up? Yeah. How can they ever measure up by what they think is your standard when you're not actually perfect? I'm sorry. It doesn't matter who you are. We're all a work in progress. Yeah. So I always found it easy to say to my kids, you know what? My bad.
That's it.
But I didn't find it easy for other people. For some reason, I had that better. But that was something that I had to work on and work out, why am I triggered by that? So I guess for reflection and to look back after you've finished watching this is like, how do you do with apologizing? How do you do with making mistakes? How do you do with asking for forgiveness? How do you do with extending grace to people that aren't good at it as well? So what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think, my final thought to recap on the 5 languages of apology, expressing regret, accepting responsibility, making restitution, genuinely repenting, and requesting forgiveness. They're the 5. I think it's really important to have that in our toolkit of things that we can do.
Yeah.
I think for any person, the ability to have those things is vital. Vital to have a relationship with not only yourself, but with other people. I think it's really critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of those relationship skills, social skills, and like you said, it's stuff that is in your toolkit, and it's all personal development. If you're not good at it, you can get good at it. It just takes a bit of practice. And also, if you're learning to get better at this, practice self-love and self-compassion while you learn and get used to it, because don't forget, the old way is a habit. You need to rewire into yourself the new way of responding, the new way of doing things. So give yourself a bit of time and love as you grow and develop. And we're all a work in progress. So the fact that you are trying to do better and be better, good on you. So so that's a good one. I really like that one. Thank you for the topic today.
Well, I hope it was helpful to other people as well. And if it was, please leave comments below. We will leave you a link there talking about Dr. Gary Chapman's book, how you can go and do the 5 languages of apology test. There's a quiz that you can do.
Cool. Yeah.
All of this is free. The book itself is not, of course. I do recommend it. And hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you very much, Jim. And thank you for watching another episode of Beauty and the Priest. Bye for now.